The first sign that something was terribly wrong came on a warm golden morning when the sunlight filled every corner of the mansion. Every corner except the bedroom of little Arya Volmont. While birds sang outside and the world felt alive, her room sat eerily still, wrapped in a silence that didn't belong in a child's life. Arya lay pale on the massive white bed, her breath shallow, her skin clammy, and her eyes dimmer each day. Her father, Mr. Rowan Volmont, one of the country's most powerful businessmen, had spent millions on doctors, private specialists, and treatments. Yet, nothing ever changed. It was as if something invisible was stealing her strength, draining her from the inside out. And no one knew why. If you're watching this and you believe in kindness, healing, and second chances, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. It helps our stories reach more hearts. Rowan wasn't a cold man, but grief had hardened him. Losing his wife during childbirth had left him fractured, and watching Arya suffer daily reopened wounds he thought time had sealed. He spent his days drowning himself in work, believing money could fix anything. While at home, Arya slowly faded like a candle burning at both ends. Her room was always kept immaculate, the curtains drawn just enough to soften the light and the scent of medicines lingering in the air. She barely smiled anymore, barely spoke, barely lived. Then came Nora Celeste, a quiet nanny with calm eyes and a presence so gentle it almost felt like a whisper. She wasn't hired for her impressive resume. She didn't have one. Rowan hired her because Arya, who spoke to no one, had touched her hand the first day Nora visited. That single gesture was enough. Nora moved into the mansion and devoted herself to Arya's care, observing everything carefully. She noticed the way Arya's energy drained rapidly in her room, but improved slightly when she was taken to the garden. She noticed how Arya often woke up trembling as though startled by something unseen. She noticed small, subtle changes in her breathing whenever she lay near the floor. Something wasn't right. The more Nora watched, the more she felt the room itself was suffocating the child. Not the air, not the temperature, something else. She cleaned, organized, changed bedding, removed flowers, adjusted lighting, checked for allergens, and inspected every visible corner. But still, Arya worsened. One afternoon, as sunlight flickered across the rug, Arya drifted into an uneasy sleep. Her fingers twitched, her brow tightened, and her breathing became faint again. Nora's heart pounded. She walked around the bed, her instincts pulling her downward. Something she couldn't explain urged her to look underneath. Nora knelt slowly, lifted the white bed skirt and froze. There, hidden in the shadowed space, sat a wooden chest, old, cracked, and strangely out of place in a modern mansion. Dust clung to its edges, but the items inside were arranged meticulously. A faded black and white portrait of a stern-faced woman, a rusted locket, dried herbs tied with fraying string, an old rosary, and pieces of handwritten parchment covered in symbols Nora didn't recognize. These were not toys, not forgotten keepsakes. They were deliberate and deeply unsettling. Her throat tightened as she realized something else. The air under the bed felt heavy, almost pressurized, as if something trapped there had been waiting to be found. Fear crept up her spine, but she forced herself to remain steady. She knew Ariel's life depended on this moment. Just then, Rowan walked in. His footsteps stopped abruptly as he saw Nora kneeling there. His hand flew to his mouth, his expression twisted with shock and fear because he recognized the photograph even before Nora lifted it. It was his mother-in-law, a woman who had despised him, a woman who had sworn he had destroyed her daughter's life, a woman who had died before Arya was even born. Rowan dropped to his knees beside Nora, the color draining from his face. He explained in a trembling voice that after his wife died, her mother had tried to place protective charms around the baby, old cultural rituals meant to shield a child from harm. But Rowan had ordered everything removed years ago, believing in science, not superstition. He assumed the staff had cleared it all. But someone somewhere had placed this box back under Arya's bed, not for protection, but seemingly twisted into something else, something darker. Nora gently removed each item, her fear mixing with urgency. As soon as the chest was pulled into the open, Arya stirred. Her breathing strengthened. Color returned faintly to her cheeks. It was almost immediate, like the room itself exhaled. Nora and Rowan exchanged a stunned, terrified look. That night, Nora insisted Arya sleep in the guest room beside her. And for the first time in months, Arya slept peacefully. No trembling, no shallow breaths, no cold sweats. Days passed and Arya, once pale as winter, began to smile. She gained strength, walked in the garden, painted with bright colors, and even laughed softly when Nora braided her hair. Rowan watched from a distance, emotionally overwhelmed, realizing how much he had failed to see while drowning in his own grief. He had believed money could cure anything. But what his daughter needed most was attention, gentle human attention, and someone who cared enough to look beneath the surface, literally and emotionally. One afternoon, Rowan found Nora sitting with Arya by the window reading a story. The sunlight bathed the room in a warm glow, and Arya leaned comfortably against her. Rowan felt something inside him unclench, something that had been tight for years. He thanked Nora, not with grand speeches or gifts, but with sincerity in his eyes and a heartfelt promise to become the father Arya deserved. Nora stayed with them, not just as a nanny, but as a guiding light, helping Rowan rebuild a home filled with warmth instead of silence. Hope instead of sorrow. The wooden box was taken far from the mansion and sealed away. And though they never learned who put it back under Arya's bed, Rowan no longer chased answers. All that mattered was that Arya was healing because someone cared enough to pay attention when everyone else looked away. If this story moved you in any way, please like the video, comment, share it with someone who might need a little hope today, and make sure you're subscribed to Kindness Corner. Your support helps us continue bringing emotional and meaningful stories to the world. Before we end, special request, comment below what part of the story touched your heart the most. And remember, sometimes healing begins the moment someone decides to care.